The question appeared on every screen in the Galactic Military Academy's main lecture hall. 2,000 students from 47 different species sat in complete silence. They stared at the words floating in holographic blue light above the central podium. How many enemy combatants can a single Earth Marine eliminate in combat? Admiral Vex Thorin stood at the podium. His scales shifted from deep purple to nervous yellow as he prepared to deliver the most controversial lecture of his career. For 300 years, the Galactic Council had classified all information about human military capabilities. Today, that classification was being lifted. "Before we begin," the Admiral said, his voice carrying through the massive hall, "I want each of you to write down your estimate. Keep it private. We will compare your guesses to the actual data at the end." The students began tapping on their personal devices. Kira Venthos, a young Zalani officer with bright green feathers covering her head, typed in her number. 12. That seemed reasonable. The best Zalani soldiers could eliminate perhaps 8 opponents before requiring rest or resupply. Humans were smaller than Zalani. They had no natural armor, no venom, no wings for tactical advantage. 12 seemed generous. Beside her, a massive Crotan named Thurn scratched his rocky chin. He entered the number 4. Humans had soft skin and weak bones. How could they possibly match the durability of a Crotan warrior who could survive direct plasma fire? Throughout the hall, numbers appeared on private screens: 3, 7, 15. The highest estimate came from a Makari student who had once visited Earth as a child. She remembered the humans moving with strange intensity, their eyes always scanning, always calculating. She typed 50 and felt embarrassed by her own exaggeration. Admiral Vexa Thorin waited until all students had submitted their guesses. Then he pressed a button on his podium. The main holographic display changed to show a planet covered in dense jungle. Red markers indicated military positions scattered across 3 continents. "The Harvest War," the Admiral said. 42 years ago, the Dravnik Collective invaded the human colony on New Malaysia. Population of that colony was 2 million civilians. The Dravnik landed 40,000 soldiers in the first wave. The students knew about the Harvest War, at least the official version. The Dravnik had attempted to capture human colonists for their slave markets. The Galactic Council had condemned the invasion, but refused to intervene militarily. Earth had been forced to respond alone. "The nearest Earth fleet was 6 weeks away," Admiral Vexa Thorin continued. "The colony had minimal defenses. Only one ship was in orbit, a transport vessel carrying supplies and—" He paused. "One passenger. Staff Sergeant Marcus Cole, Earth Marine Corps, returning home after leave." A picture appeared on the screen. The human looked unimpressive, average height, brown skin, short black hair. He wore a simple military uniform with minimal decorations. His face showed no particular emotion. "Sergeant Cole was the only trained soldier on the planet when the Dravnik invaded. The colonial militia numbered approximately 300. But they were farmers and technicians, not warriors. They had hunting rifles and improvised weapons. The Dravnik had plasma cannons, armored vehicles, and air support." Kira leaned forward in her seat. She had never heard this level of detail about the Harvest War. The official records simply stated that Earth forces had eventually repelled the invasion with significant losses on both sides. "What happened next?" Admiral Vex Thorin said. "Remained classified for 4 decades. The Galactic Council feared that releasing this information would destabilize military planning across all member species. Today, you will understand why." He pressed another button. The display showed a timeline beginning on day 1 of the invasion. Within 6 hours of landing, the Dravnik had captured the capital city and both spaceports. They began rounding up civilians for transport to their slave ships. Colonial resistance was crushed quickly. The militia lost 200 fighters in the first day. Sergeant Cole gathered the survivors in the jungle outside the city. The display showed a map with the remaining human forces marked in blue. 97 fighters. The Dravnik forces surrounded them in red. The numbers looked impossible. The Dravnik commander sent a message to the human survivors. Surrender immediately or face extermination, standard protocol for their operations. Admiral Vexithoran's scales shifted to a darker shade. Sergeant Cole sent a reply. Would you like to hear it? The students nodded. An audio recording played through the hall's speakers. The human's voice was calm and steady. You have made a mistake coming here. You have one chance to leave this planet alive. Take it. If you stay, I will kill every single one of you. This is not a threat. This is information. Several students laughed nervously. The arrogance seemed absurd. One human soldier threatening 40,000 Dravnik warriors. The Dravnik commander found this amusing as well, Admiral Vexithoran said. He ordered an immediate assault on the human position. He sent 500 soldiers into the jungle to eliminate the survivors. The map display began to animate. Red markers moved toward the blue cluster in the jungle. Then something strange happened. The red markers began to disappear. First contact occurred at nightfall. The Dravnik entered the jungle in standard formation, wide spacing, overlapping fields of fire, good communication between units. Textbook approach. More red markers vanished from the display. By morning, none of the 500 had returned. The Dravnik commander assumed communication failure. He sent scouts to investigate. The display showed small red dots moving into the jungle. One by one, they disappeared. No scouts returned. On day 3, the commander sent a full battalion. 1,000 soldiers with armored support. He ordered them to burn the jungle if necessary. Kira watched the display with growing confusion. The red markers entered the jungle and began to spread out in a search pattern. Then they started vanishing faster than before. Within hours, the entire battalion was gone. The Dravnik had lost 1,500 soldiers, Admiral Vexithoran said. They had not confirmed a single human casualty. The commander began to suspect he was facing a much larger force than reported. He called for reinforcements from orbit. The admiral paused. He looked out at his students with an expression that might have been fear. He was not facing a larger force. He was facing one Marine who had decided that nobody was leaving that planet alive. The lecture hall had grown completely silent. Admiral Vexithoran noticed that several students had stopped taking notes. They simply stared at the display showing the vanished battalions. I need to explain something about human military training, the admiral said. Most species train their soldiers to fight in units. We teach formation tactics, coordinated assaults, combined arms operations. Humans learn all of this as well, but they also train each soldier to fight alone, to survive alone. To win alone. He changed the display to show a breakdown of human marine training. The students read the requirements with growing disbelief. Wilderness survival in extreme environments, combat in zero visibility conditions, improvised weapon construction, psychological resistance to isolation. The list continued for several pages. A human marine can operate independently for weeks without support. They can find food, water, and shelter in any environment. They can manufacture weapons from available materials, and most importantly, Admiral Vexithoran paused. They can adapt their tactics in real time based on their enemy's weaknesses. Kira raised her hand. Admiral, with respect, every species can adapt. That is basic military intelligence. You are correct, the Admiral said. But humans adapt faster, much faster. On day 1 of the Harvest War, Sergeant Cole observed the Dravnik soldiers. He noted their strengths, excellent armor, powerful weapons, good discipline. Then he noted their weaknesses. The display showed a detailed analysis of Dravnik physiology. Their large bodies required significant food and water. Their excellent hearing made them sensitive to certain frequencies. Their compound eyes gave them wide peripheral vision, but poor depth perception at night. Their communication relied heavily on chemical signals that could be disrupted. Sergeant Cole spent his first night gathering information. He did not fire a single shot. He watched. He learned. By morning, he had developed a complete strategy to destroy a force 400 times his size. Thurn, the Crotan student, shifted uncomfortably. His people were known for their strength and durability. They had never considered that these traits could become weaknesses against the right opponent. The human began with psychological warfare, Admiral Vexithorin continued. He knew the Dravnik were confident, arrogant. They expected easy victory against soft-skinned humans. So he designed his attacks to create fear. The display showed a series of Dravnik patrol reports from days 2 through 5. Soldiers found dead with no visible wounds. Equipment sabotaged in ways that seemed impossible. Strange sounds in the jungle at night that prevented sleep. Bodies positioned in disturbing arrangements meant to frighten whoever found them. The Dravnik are not cowards, the Admiral said. They have fought many wars, but they had never experienced anything like this. They began to believe they were fighting something supernatural. Morale collapsed within a week. A Makari student raised her hand. How did one soldier accomplish all this? Even with psychological tactics, he would need to be everywhere at once. Admiral Vexithorin nodded. Excellent question. The answer involves something humans call force multiplication. Sergeant Cole did not remain alone. He trained the surviving colonists. The display showed images of civilian humans learning combat techniques. Farmers practicing with captured Dravnik weapons. Technicians building explosive devices from mining equipment. Children serving as scouts and messengers. Within 2 weeks, Cole had transformed 97 frightened civilians into an effective guerrilla force. They could not match the Dravnik in open combat. So they never fought in open combat. They struck at night. They attacked supply lines. They poisoned water sources. They turned the entire planet into a trap. The timeline advanced to day 20. The Dravnik had lost 8,000 soldiers. They controlled only a small perimeter around the capital city. Their supply ships were being destroyed in orbit by improvised missiles launched from hidden positions. The slaves they had already captured were being rescued in night raids that left no survivors among the guards. The Dravnik commander made a decision, Admiral Vexithorin said. He would end this personally. He assembled his remaining forces for a massive sweep operation. Every soldier, every vehicle, every weapon. They would move through the jungle in a single overwhelming wave and destroy everything in their path. The display showed the Dravnik formation, 30,000 soldiers in a line stretching across the continent. Behind them, artillery and air support. It looked unstoppable. Sergeant Cole learned of this plan through captured communications. He gathered his fighters and explained the situation. They were outnumbered. They could not stop this assault through conventional means. He told them they had 2 choices. Kira noticed that the Admiral's voice had changed. It carried something like reverence. They could scatter and hide, survive until the Earth fleet arrived in 4 more weeks. Or they could stand and fight and probably die, but save the civilians still hiding in the jungle. Sergeant Cole told them he would not order anyone to stay. Each person had to choose. The display showed a simple graphic, 97 blue dots representing the human fighters. The question appeared, how many chose to fight? Every single one stayed, Admiral Vexithorin said. Not one person left. The farmers, the technicians, the teenagers, they all chose to stand with their Marine. The Crotan student made a sound that might have been disbelief. In his culture, such sacrifice was reserved for protecting one's direct bloodline. These humans were dying for strangers. What followed, the Admiral continued, is now studied in classified military courses across the galaxy. Sergeant Cole did not try to stop the Dravnik advance. He let them come. He had prepared something special for them. The display showed the jungle from above. Hidden among the trees were thousands of small markers. During the previous weeks, while conducting raids and rescues, Cole's fighters had been building traps, explosives, deadfalls, snares, poison stakes. They had turned 100 square kilometers of jungle into a killing field, and the Dravnik marched straight into it. The animation began. The Dravnik line advanced confidently. Then the markers began activating. Explosions, collapsing ground, trees falling. The red markers started disappearing faster than the display could track. The human fighters did not engage directly. They stayed hidden and let the traps do their work. When Dravnik's soldiers bunched together for safety, mortars hit them. When they spread out to avoid the mortars, they found the individual traps. When they called for air support, hidden missiles brought down their aircraft. Admiral Vexithorin paused the display. Half the Dravnik force was already gone. The Dravnik commander realized too late what was happening. He ordered a retreat, but Cole had planned for that as well. The path behind the Dravnik line had been seeded with fresh traps during the advance. They were surrounded by death in every direction. The admiral looked at his students. Many of them had stopped breathing. That was when Sergeant Cole finally revealed himself. He walked out of the jungle alone and stood in front of the surviving Dravnik. He was carrying a rifle he had built from salvaged parts. He was covered in mud and blood, and he smiled. The display showed a recording from a Dravnik soldier's helmet camera. The human did not look like a farmer or a technician. He looked like something that had crawled out of a nightmare. He gave them one more chance to surrender. The Dravnik commander refused. His honor would not permit it. Admiral Vexithorin's voice dropped. So Sergeant Cole raised his hand and signaled his fighters. What happened next lasted less than 2 hours. The timeline jumped to the end of day 20. The numbers appeared on the display. 0 Dravnik soldiers remained combat effective. 15,000 dead, 12,000 wounded and captured, 3,000 missing, presumed dead in the jungle. The Earth fleet arrived 4 weeks later, Admiral Vexithorin said. They found the colony secure, the civilians were safe, and Staff Sergeant Marcus Cole was waiting at the spaceport with his militia, ready to report for duty. He changed the display to show the final casualty figures. Human losses during the 6-week battle. 11 militia members killed, 23 wounded. Military personnel killed, 0. 1 Marine had defeated an army of 40,000. And the galaxy had no idea. Admiral Vexithorin let the numbers sit on the display for a long moment. The silence in the lecture hall was absolute. 2,000 students from 47 species sat frozen in their seats, trying to process what they had just learned. Now, the Admiral said quietly, I want you to look at the estimates you made at the beginning of this lecture. How many of you guessed a number higher than 40,000? Not a single hand rose. The highest estimate in this room was 50. I want you to understand the gap between your expectations and reality. This gap exists because you were thinking about humans the wrong way. He changed the display to show a comparison chart. On one side were the military capabilities of various galactic species, the Crotan with their incredible durability, the Zalani with their flight and venom, the Makari with their perfect memory and calculation speed. Each species had clear advantages that made them dangerous in combat. On the other side was the human profile. No natural armor, no claws or venom, average strength, average speed, average senses. Every species in this room looks at this chart and sees weakness, Admiral Vexithorin said. You are making a critical error. Humans do not have obvious physical advantages because they do not need them. They have something more dangerous. He highlighted 3 words at the bottom of the human profile: adaptability, persistence, creativity. Most species evolved to dominate a specific environment. Crotan thrive in volcanic regions. Zalani own the skies. Makari control information networks. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill them constantly. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, other humans. The display showed Earth with its varied environments. Deserts and jungles, mountains and oceans, frozen wastelands and burning plains. They survived everything their planet threw at them. Then they started throwing things back. They did not evolve to master one environment. They evolved to master any environment. They adapt. They endure. They find solutions that nobody else considers. Kira raised her hand again. Admiral, I understand that Sergeant Cole was exceptional, but surely he cannot be representative of all human soldiers. The Admiral made a sound that might have been a laugh. That is exactly what the Galactic Council believed. They assumed Cole was an anomaly. So they conducted studies over the next 40 years. They examined hundreds of human military operations across dozens of conflicts. He changed the display to show a list of battles with statistics. The Siege of Proxima Station. 400 humans held a mining facility against 6,000 raiders for 3 months. They lost 8 soldiers. The raiders lost everyone. The students shifted in their seats. The relief of Kepler Colony. 1 human destroyer engaged 11 pirate vessels to protect a civilian convoy. The destroyer was outgunned and outnumbered. It destroyed 9 ships and disabled 2 others before rescue arrived. The human ship had 12 crew members. They suffered no casualties. More statistics appeared. More impossible numbers. The Ghost Fleet incident. The Variax hegemony ambushed a human research vessel in neutral space. They wanted the technology on board. 37 human scientists and crew fought back using improvised weapons and creative use of the ship's systems. When the Earth Navy arrived to investigate, they found the research vessel intact. The Variax attack force of 200 soldiers was completely eliminated. Admiral Vex Thorin turned to face his students directly. Sergeant Cole was not an anomaly. He was average. An average human soldier, given sufficient motivation and resources, will find a way to destroy forces that should be vastly superior. This is not speculation. This is documented fact. The display changed one final time. It showed a single question. What makes humans so dangerous? We have studied this question for decades. We have examined their training, their tactics, their technology. All of these are impressive but not unique. Other species have similar capabilities, so what is different about humans? He paused, looking out at the young officers who would one day command fleets and armies. The difference is psychological. Humans do not know when to stop. Every other species in the galaxy has limits. There is a point where they will surrender, a point where they will retreat, a point where they will accept defeat and try to survive. Humans do not have this point. The Admiral's scales had shifted to pure white, a color that indicated absolute seriousness among his species. Sergeant Cole could have hidden in that jungle for 6 weeks. He could have waited for rescue. His militia could have scattered and survived as refugees until the fleet arrived. Instead, he chose to fight an enemy 400 times his size because civilians were in danger. He knew he would probably die. He fought anyway, and he asked 97 ordinary people to die with him. They all said yes. Thurn raised his rocky hand slowly. Admiral, why are you telling us this now? You said this information was classified for 40 years. Why reveal it? Admiral Vexathorin nodded. Because Earth has formally requested admission to the Galactic Council as a full military partner. The Council is debating this request now. Some members are in favor. Others are concerned about giving humans access to our military technology and intelligence. He changed the display to show the current Council voting predictions. The numbers were close. Those who oppose human membership argue that humans are too dangerous, too aggressive, too unpredictable. They believe that humans will eventually turn these capabilities against the rest of the galaxy. The Admiral looked at his students with an expression that was hard to read. I am showing you this information because you will be the officers who work alongside humans if they join the Council, or you will be the officers who fight against them if they do not. Either way, you need to understand what you are dealing with. He closed all the displays. The lecture hall returned to normal lighting. Here is what I have learned after 40 years of studying humans. They are not monsters. They are not mindless killers. They are people who love their families and want peaceful lives. They create beautiful art and music. They show kindness to strangers. They adopt the orphan children of other species and raise them as their own. His voice softened. But when you threaten what they love, they become something else. They become patient and creative and absolutely relentless. They will sacrifice everything to protect their people. And they will find ways to win that you never imagined were possible. Admiral Vexithoran stepped away from the podium. Staff Sergeant Marcus Cole retired from the Marines 2 years after the Harvest War. He returned to New Malaysia and married a woman from the colonial militia. They have 3 children. He spends his days farming the same jungle where he killed 30,000 enemy soldiers. He teaches his children to grow vegetables and repair equipment and help their neighbors. The Admiral moved toward the door. He also teaches them to shoot and to build traps and to never ever surrender when innocent lives are at stake. He paused at the exit. When the Council votes on human membership, I will vote in favor, because I would rather have Staff Sergeant Cole as an ally than as an enemy. I suggest you consider this carefully as you begin your careers. He left the lecture hall in silence. The students sat for a long time without speaking. Finally, Kira looked at her estimate from the beginning of the lecture. 12. She had thought she was being generous. She deleted the number and typed a new response, however many it takes. Beside her, Thurn stared at his own screen. He thought about his people's reputation for being impossible to kill. Then he thought about a single human farmer standing in front of 30,000 soldiers and smiling. He closed his device and decided he needed to learn more about these humans. Specifically, he wanted to understand how to make sure they never had a reason to smile at him like that. Across the lecture hall, 2,000 future officers reached similar conclusions. The galaxy had changed. Earth was coming, whether the Council approved or not, and every species needed to decide whether they wanted humans as friends or as something else entirely. None of them wanted to become the next answer to that terrible question: how many can a single Earth Marine take out? The answer, they now understood, was simple: as many as necessary, and possibly everyone.